Okay, we're going to talk about the dynamics of change. This is from an article by an organizational consultant by the name of Ken Blanchard. You came to Amity to change. You didn't come to stay the same. So, and everybody talks at least as if they want to change. But, you know, for all the talk, then there's the action. Do we really change even though we verbalize it? Or do we keep kind of making the same kind of mistakes? You know, the metaphor is in the old days, the milk horse had blinders on and only knew how to go around the block one way, you know. So if change was easy, then everybody would do it easily and it really wouldn't be a problem. But it obviously isn't easy. So if we really want to change, then we kind of have to figure out, well, what are the roadblocks? What are kind of the dynamics of the situation so that we can actually do it? So there are certain commonalities that this guy, Ken Blanchard, identified that are really seem to be kind of universally applicable to kind of all people at all times and in most situations. So it's kind of important to understand what are these dynamics. You know, it's kind of like if you're a pilot, before you take off, you want to call and find out what the weather's going to be like, right? You don't want to just like get in your plane, take off, and all of a sudden there's a thunderstorm, which you didn't really expect, or lightning, or something else going on that is going to severely affect you in terms of getting to your actual destination. So here's these dynamics of change that Mr. Blanchard identified. Number one, if you're trying to change, you're going to feel awkward, you're going to feel ill at ease, and you're going to be self-conscious, okay? So whenever you ask people or ask yourself to do something differently, we disrupt our habitual way of doing things. And so we tend to feel really awkward and kind of vulnerable. People looking at me, you know, whether it's, I mean, you know, simple things. You're getting a different haircut than you've ever had before. You're wearing different clothes than you wore before. You go back to the neighborhood you've been to college and you're talking about things and your old buddies look at you and say, you know, he's not one of us anymore, you know, or whatever it is. When you begin to change, you feel awkward and uncomfortable, and people around you may react to you in a way that makes you feel awkward, uncomfortable, vulnerable, or whatever. So we don't like those feelings, of course. Those are uncomfortable feelings. So there's a tendency to revert to what the known. Even if we didn't particularly like what we were doing before, there's a comfort in the habitual ways that we've behaved and the habitual ways that people have responded to us. So we need to, but we're committed to change. So we have to prepare for these feelings and get support, if we can, from friends or family or whatever, or our community, to support us in the spirit of change, to reinforce, yeah, remember why you're doing this. You know, it's really a good deal. Keep up the good work and so forth and so on, so that we have that support as we try and make these changes. And it can be anything, you know, it can be the change from your identity as kind of a, you know, player, so to speak, or whatever, or it could be a change in your diet, you know, like, you know, people discover, well, I wanted to go vegan, and all of the people that were my friends sort of didn't even want to be around me anymore because I kept, like, whatever it is. It's gonna, you have to accept this isn't gonna be easy. I'm gonna feel pretty awkward about it. So what's the second dynamics that's pretty universal? First, what people think about when they're making a change is not how great the change is gonna be, but the things they're giving up, okay? And so even if the change is really positive and the rewards of the change are going to be pretty meaningful for you, nonetheless, there is a tendency to concentrate, well, I won't be able to do this anymore. I won't be able to do that anymore. For somebody who's transferring from a carnivorous diet to a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet, it's like, well, I won't be able to go back to that hamburger I loved, or, whatever, And if you're changing your lifestyle pretty radically, which if you're here at Amity, that's what you're here for, there's a tendency to romanticize all the fun you had, the great parties, getting high, the camaraderie. I remember one of our friends some years ago talking about being in prison and said, it was the best friends I ever had. And they really cared about me and really loved me, and I really felt included. Well, that's okay. So we kind of romanticize that situation. And we tend to not remember the night in the drunk tank, being arrested, looking in the mirror and being kind of disgusted by what you see, whatever, we tend to romanticize the past and to feel a sense of loss about the future. There's a great metaphor, one foot on the dock and one foot on the boat, and that's not going to work out real well. You got to make a choice at some point to go one way or the other. But the temptation is to go back to the dock, back to what you know. So we have to be aware of that. The other thing is that you can only really handle so much change at a time, even if you're just absolutely gung-ho for change. I'm ready. The reality is if you try and change too much, too quickly, you're setting yourself up for a major failure. If it took a few years for you to get completely out of your mind, it isn't going to change. You're not going to turn into this wonderful person that you want to become in 28 days. It's going to take some time. You can analogize it to weightlifting. The greatest mistake that people make in exercise, the New Year's resolution, I'm going to get in shape. People go to the gym, they overdo it, they get really sore, or sometimes even hurt themselves, and that's the end of that. They never go back again, right? Because instead of taking it slow, building up the strength over time, setting goals that are reasonable, okay? And you see it also in diets. People, I'm going to lose 30 pounds here in the next month, and they starve themselves. They don't eat any of the foods that they like. They're miserable all the time, and at the end of about 2 weeks into it, it's like, well, the hell with that. Rather than a gradual change, and integrating it into your life. So the research, let's say in our this field we have of changing people, transforming people's lives, it takes a minimum of 90 days before you can expect anything to really happen. And then every week, every month after 90 days is a consolidation of skills and of disciplines that will last for, if they're followed, for a lifetime, okay? So we always say the shortcut takes twice as long or sometimes 3 times as long because the shortcut doesn't work, so you have to go back and do the whole thing over again, and this time actually put the effort into it that it takes. So the quick fix is not a fix at all. It's a a guarantee of failure. So recognize that change, no matter how desirable it is and how passionate you are about it, takes time. And don't rush it. Take the time and really get the benefits of the change that you want by approaching it gradually, consistently, and with a lot of self-discipline. Okay, number 4. Some people, many people, will feel absolutely alone even if they're in a situation where everybody else is going through the same process. Everybody kind of wants to feel my situation is unique and special. And the typical thing we hear is like, you just don't understand. You don't really know me. You can't possibly understand the agony I'm going through or the difficulties I'm facing or the challenges that have happened. And when you repeat this over and over again, you can actually come to believe it, that and everybody is unique, but they're not that unique, okay? And so, unfortunately, by repeating this over and over again, you begin to believe it, and this increases your sense of isolation at the very time you really need to feel connected to other people and to be learning from their experiences and being reinforced, like, hey, we're all going to end this together. We're all going through this experience. So what is needed is a feeling of being included, understood, and supported. And the teaching and therapeutic community is perfect for this. Because everybody, most of your faculty have been through this process. So they get it. They understand. And all the other students that are involved with you, the majority of them are also struggling and committed to making change on most of the days. Some days they're not committed, but most days they're committed. They've got their eyes on the prize. So you are in an inclusive, supportive environment which is designed to give you the maximum support you need to go forward with this change that you want and you need in your life and that you recognize. That's why you came. Okay, what's 5? Well, 5 is people are at different levels of readiness for change, okay? And that's just a reality. This is, we're all in it together, and different strokes for different folks are both valid, okay? So some people have, for some reason in their lives, are just at a point where the change they need to make is so obvious to them. And it can happen a lot of ways. I mean, which is sometimes people have just reached the bottom of the barrel. And they have really suffered a lot. And the light has gone on saying, that's it, I'm done. Okay, I really need to make that change. Sometimes the motivation is extrinsic. We've had people who have come to Amity because somebody said, if I see you again on the streets, I'm going to kill you. Well, there's a motivation. Okay. So other people have been placed with not exactly great enthusiasm and may feel like, well, I got to get through this to get off probation. But I really intend to go back and kind of do what I was doing before, only this time I'm not going to get caught, or I'm going to do it better, or kind of a romantic point of view of I can kind of snooze my way through this experience, and because I have an intention, I don't really need to work hard at this process, and somehow or another it'll just sort of magically happen for me. Because I'm blessed or lucky or whatever. So it's also important to assess yourself. Other people are assessing you, but it's really good to sit down and really kind of take an inventory. Where am I? How committed are my words I want to change? How deep is that? How serious am I? Or am I really on the fence? Am I really just trying to kind of waffle my way through this experience? And that's important because that's your starting point, is an honest assessment of where you are. A lot of people, when we had our prison project in San Diego, it was interesting. Many people came into the prison project because they really wanted to change. They were sick of the prison life. They had done multiple terms, and they said, this time I want to get out and stay the hell out. I do not want to come back and spend the rest of my life doing this, because they could see they were on kind of this revolving door, you know, in for 3-4 years, out for 6 months, back in. And whatever glamour there was in this was gone after about 2 or 3 times of it. Other people came into the project, the therapeutic teaching and therapeutic community we had done, because they had a wife or a girlfriend in San Diego, and visitation was going to be easier if they could stay in that prison, and if they didn't come into our project, they would probably be transferred to a prison that was further away. Well, that's not what I'd call a desire to change. That's just a desire to get a benefit. But what happened? Most of them, as they were involved in the community, began to say, well, gee, this is pretty damn good. I can really begin to see a different life from myself as a result of being around people who are very positive, around good teachers who are teaching me things from their own personal experience, and they're pretty credible because they've been in prison themselves or been arrested and whatever. So that's okay. I mean, coming into a situation where you're not highly motivated doesn't mean that you can't catch fire. And allow yourself to be open to having a pretty significant rearrangement of your motivation, okay? But I think if you come into a situation where you're highly motivated and you're around some people who are not very highly motivated, it can be kind of a turnoff. But don't let it be. Just stick with what you are committed to. So what is one of the other barriers to change? Well, there are barriers, and then there are imagined barriers or self-created barriers. So a lot of people think, well, I just don't have the resources to get through this. Now, some of that is, I just don't have the willpower to get through it. I've never been able to do anything really, really significant and stick with it. I've promised myself 100 times I was going to stop using, or I was going to be a good parent to my child, or whatever. I've made all these promises. I've never been able to keep them. I just don't have the strength. So that's one. That's a self-imposed barrier, because it isn't actually there. It's one that you've created in your own belief system. There is the other one, which is, this may be a great program for you, but it's not a great program for me, okay? We had one guy I really loved, Juan Chavera, who was done a lot of time, and he would say to people, I said, I really think you should do these things. They don't work for me, okay? They, in fact, actually worked great for him, and he had a wonderful experience with Amity, and was really a tremendous guy in the community. But his mantra for the first year or so was like, well, I think this is really great for you, but it just doesn't work for me at all. And then you have, of course, the staff don't understand me because I'm so unique, or I'm so different, or this is a program for blacks and I'm white, or this is a program for whites and I'm black, or it's for Native Americans and I'm Hispanic, or whatever excuses come up, or I don't have enough support, or whatever, okay? And these are, again, largely self-imposed barriers. You're coming into a situation in which the evidence is overwhelming that this is an environment you can change in. So try and tuck away your rationalizations and excuses so that you can overcome this self-imposed barriers. So the seventh one, final one, if you take the pressure off, people will revert to their old behavior. So, and I think this is, there's a truth to this that we should recognize, which is, one of the reasons we do this in community, we have this transformative process in a community setting, is because we push each other and we support each other and we have expectations of each other. And so you take that away, and there's in some cases, it's kind of, nobody's looking, so I'm going to go back and do what's comfortable for me or whatever. Even if going backward is to a situation which we really didn't like, and we try to get out of, nonetheless, the power of habits, old habits, they're seated very deeply. We even know from brain chemistry that things that we've practiced over and over and over again, we're creating circuits in the brain that are like serious neurological pathways, and they have a pull. Those areas and behaviors that we were engaged in are comfortable in a way, and there is that's really the relapse issue in a lot of ways. We get triggered and bang, we're back on the same train. So honest feedback. This is one of the reasons why we really need to develop strong friendships, because these friendships get us through these periods of time. Because a strong friendship is a friend who will tell you, you're starting to talk that way again, or that idea you just had is the dumbest thing I've heard. People will help keep you on track. While they're reinforcing the good things you're doing, they also are watchdogging, those behaviors, and those thought patterns, and those rationalizations that will get you right back where you started from. So this is an old AA saying, you alone can do it, but you can't do it alone. We need that reinforcement to keep us on the path that we've chosen. But the fact that we've chosen it doesn't mean that we're 100% on it all the time. It's easy to slip off that. Somebody said once, no matter how far up the road I am, the ditch is only 6 inches away, right? So, it's easy to go into the ditch if we're not careful, and that's where our friendships and where community really pays off. So, if you're serious about change, and I hope that all of you who are watching this are very serious about change, you need to know the landscape. Just like you're going to go on a long hike over terrain you've never been on before, what do? Well, you get a map, you get a compass, you make sure you got the right equipment, you got enough water and food, and you talk to some people who've done it before. And if you can, what do? Try and get a companion to go with you, There's that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go strongly, if you actually want to get to your destination, go together. So you have to know, like one time, many years ago, I ran a marathon. And so one of the things we had to know, people would say, when you get about 20 miles into it, you're going to have a phenomenon that's called hitting the wall, which is just all of a sudden your legs feel like you're on spaghetti, your exhaustion really sets in, and you're going to want to just quit, right then. So most of the preparation was extending my distance so I could, feel comfortable going at least a significant portion of the distance I was going to run. But being psychologically prepared, I'm going to hit that wall. I know I'm going to hit that wall. And what are the things I need to do psychologically so when I hit it, it doesn't knock me out? And then what are the things I need to do physically to prepare? And there were some certain physical preparations that were really important for that. And, I ran the marathon, and I definitely felt it. It hit you pretty hard, and I kept on going, completed the marathon, which was great. But, this is knowing these 7 dynamics are very valuable, because you need to say, okay, what are the things that are likely to prevent me from accomplishing this transformation that I want to accomplish in my life, that I'm really motivated to accomplish. And if you know those things, it's just like knowing about hitting the wall. You know, okay, there's going to be days when I just want to quit, where I don't give a damn about all the good advice I'm getting, and where it just seems pointless, and I just want to go home and be comfortable, or go out and party on the weekend, or whatever. Whatever the equivalent of hitting the wall is for you, you need to know these dynamics, because they will occur. And if you're ready for them, then they won't knock you off. They won't knock you off the path. They may blow you a little bit to the side. You may get a little wobbly, but you get through it. And it's worth it. The vision that you have for your life, for the life that's going to be very different than the one you've been living, is a good vision. Don't lose sight of it. Don't let any of these things get in the way of accomplishing that. And remember that the community is set up. It is designed specifically to help you deal with these dynamics.